It didn't begin with screaming. It didn't begin with fire or bells. It began with the air. Something shifted. Not all at once, but slowly. Like a breeze you couldn't name. A feeling that the wind no longer smelled of the river or the fields, but of stone, of iron, of something left to rot. You stood outside the cottage that morning looking at the sky. It was the same pale blue it always was, but it felt wrong. The birds were quiet, the dogs too. Even the leaves didn't move like they should. You thought maybe it was just you, that the bad dream from the night before hadn't left your skin. But by noon, the whispers had started. A merchant's wife coughing in the square, a boy who fainted by the well, a strange black mark on the neck of the cooper's youngest son. You told yourself it was nothing, but that night you couldn't sleep. The air inside the house felt thick. Your skin itched, your breath came shallow. You sat by the door and waited for a breeze, any breeze, to come through the cracks. It didn't. And in the silence, you realized something that settled deep into your bones. The air had changed, and the world you knew had already begun to die. There is no sunset anymore, just a slow drowning. The light doesn't fade, it sinks. One moment, there's a soft gold glow on the thatched roofs. The next, the world feels swallowed by ash. Candles used to be a comfort, but now they are precious. Beeswax is reserved for churches. Tallow stinks and smokes. And so, people let the dark take over. Inside the homes, a single flame struggles to hold a corner of the room. Everything else, the walls, the beams above your head, even the eyes of those around you, vanishes into the black. Children no longer play after supper. Women rush to finish chores before dusk. Men walk with heads low, as if afraid of meeting something in the shadows. You notice your own heartbeat more clearly. The creak of a stool becomes a shout. A cough sounds like a warning bell. The dark is not just around you anymore. It is inside the house, inside your chest. There are no clocks to tell time. Only your fear marks the hours. And when even the candle dies, the night begins for real. The night in 1347 is not silent. Not truly. It breathes. At first, it's only the wind, low and soft, like a whisper from someone just behind you. Then, the wooden beams above creak. A muffled thump, a distant scrape. Maybe a rat, maybe something worse. You hold your breath. You try to convince yourself it's the animals, the hens rustling, the goat shifting its weight. But then something moves near the door. Slow, deliberate. The latch rattles once. Just once. No one else in the house stirs. Did they hear it? Your mother had said not to answer any knock after sunset, not even from neighbors. If they knock late, she said, they're not the people you know anymore. There's a soft moan outside. Human, you think, or is it the wind again? In the distance, a dog howls, then another, then silence. Deep and sudden, like the world itself went still. Somewhere on the road, wheels creak, a cart passing slowly through the village. But there's no voice, no lantern, no footsteps. Just the groan of wood and iron. It doesn't stop. It just rolls, steady and patient, down the lane. And with every creak, it takes someone with it. You shut your eyes, but you still hear it all. In your village, doors used to stay open late into the evening. Neighbors shared bread. Children wandered between homes, chasing each other through fading daylight. Laughter echoed after dark. Not anymore. Now, the doors close before the sun has fully set. Bolts slide. Latches click. Not just for safety, but for separation, for distance. Even your closest friends now keep to their own walls. You watch your father push a heavy beam across the door. He says nothing. No one does. The sound of wood scraping into place has replaced the evening prayer. You wonder if the sickness can knock. There are rules, whispered but firm. Don't open for anyone after dusk. Don't answer voices calling from outside. Don't touch anything left at your doorstep. And still, someone knocks, softly, 3 times. Just after dark, your little brother looks at you, wide-eyed. He heard it too. So did your mother, her face pale as wax in the candlelight. No one moves. No one breathes. You just listen. Minutes pass, then an hour. No more sounds. But none of you sleep, because sometimes the knocking isn't what wakes you. It's the fact that it stops. Your home was never grand. Wattle walls, a low roof, 1 room for all of you. But it was warm, familiar. Yours. Now it feels like a trap. The thatch above your head lets in the cold. The walls seem to breathe, leaking wind, whispers, and the smell of something rotting far too close. You sleep beside your family, all of you pressed together on old straw, shoulder to shoulder the way you always did. But this time, no one turns their back. No one dares face the wall. Every cough is a warning. Every sigh feels final. Your uncle lies in the far corner, under 3 layers of cloth. He hasn't spoken in 2 days. He doesn't eat. Sometimes he stirs in the dark. Other times, you wonder if he's still breathing. No one checks. To go near him is to invite it in. The thing that takes people in the night, the thing they now call the pestilence. Your mother dabs vinegar on cloth and presses it to your nose. To keep the bad air out, she says. But her hands shake. You want to believe the danger is outside, that the locked door keeps it away. But deep down, you know the truth. It's already here. As twilight deepens into a thick, heavy dark, a new terror makes its presence known, the smell of the night. It's not the familiar aroma of earth after rain. This is something altogether different, a foul, choking blend of decay, damp straw, and unspoken dread. Walking the narrow alley between dwellings, you catch whiffs of odors that make your stomach turn. There's the stale tang of unventilated rooms, mixed with the acrid burn of smoldering wood. Underneath it all, there is a subtle, almost metallic hint, as if blood and rust have merged in the air. In one house, a widow quietly tends a small fire to purify the air. She adds herbs and crushed spices to the flames, desperate to mask the scent that clings to every crevice of the home. Yet no matter how much she burns, the odor persists like an unwelcome ghost that refuses to leave. Outside, the stench becomes the language of suffering. You pass by the edge of a once bustling market square. Now it lies abandoned, its vibrant chatter silenced and replaced by a chemical tang of vinegar and decay. Scattered remnants of produce lie rotting on the cobblestones where fruit once shone in the summer sun. Now each decomposing peel contributes to the overwhelming miasma. This smell, the smell of night, is more than just a physical nuisance. It speaks of lives ravaged by unseen forces. It tells the story of families hollowed out by loss, of neighbors whose faces have grown distant as they pray to keep the noxious air at bay. It is a scent of despair, as palpable as the cold stone walls that encase the village. And yet, even as the odor intensifies, you sense a hidden structure in it, the meticulous way in which every element, every particle of rot and smoke seems to be drawing you into the very essence of 1347. The aroma becomes a silent narrative, whispering tales of plague and sorrow, of urgent prayers and silent goodbyes. It is as if the night itself is exhaling the memories of a world on the brink of collapse. You pause, closing your eyes to fully register this olfactory assault. The smell wraps around you like a dark shroud, settling in your lungs and mixing with your heartbeat. It is the smell of inevitability, a reminder that nothing remains unchanged. That each night, with its worsening air and chilling decay, erodes a bit more of what you once knew as safety and comfort. In that moment, you understand. The smell of the night is the silent herald of death, a force as relentless and all-encompassing as the darkness that swallows every corner of your home. And as you draw a shaky breath, you're left with the stark realization that, in 1347, even the very air you breathe has become a weapon. It's past midnight, but no one sleeps. Not really. There's a movement in the house. Soft, careful, like someone afraid to disturb the darkness itself. Then comes the whisper of cloth, the creak of a knee settling onto a wooden floor. You open your eyes and see your mother in the corner, hands clasped tightly, lips moving in silence. She prays, not in the usual way, not in Latin or in loud recitation. This is something different. This prayer is fragile, secret, as though the wrong sound might break its spell. You sit up slowly, not to interrupt, but to listen. In the stillness, the rhythm of her words becomes audible. She prays for your brother, for your aunt, who has not answered in 2 days, for the baker's boy, for the priest. She does not pray for herself. You realize she's not asking for salvation. She's bargaining. "Take me," she whispers. "Let them stay. Let them stay." You've heard others too. Neighbors kneeling beside beds or huddled under blankets with rosaries pressed so tightly their palms bleed. You've heard prayers shouted into the wind and prayers carved into wood. Some draw crosses above doors. Others hang dried herbs over cradles, but most just kneel, in silence, praying not to be noticed, not to be taken next. In the church, the bells have stopped ringing. The priest only comes out during the day now, face hidden behind cloth soaked in wine. At night, he's just another shape behind closed doors, another voice murmuring in the dark. You begin to pray, too. Not because you believe it will work, but because there's nothing else left to do. Because if the night listens, if anything in the dark listens, you want it to hear your voice before it hears your breath. And so the village prays, quietly, desperately, like people who know the plague doesn't knock. It just slips in while you're praying. You see it before you hear him. A soft orange glow swaying slightly in the wind, like a star that wandered too close to the earth. The lantern swings from the end of a long wooden pole, held high by the night watchman. He walks slowly, methodically, his steps measured not in distance but in fear. He does not call out, he does not sing or whistle as he once did. This is not a patrol. This is a ritual. Once he was just old Thomas from the blacksmith's shed. Cheerful, loud, always smelling of ash and sweat. Now he walks like a ghost, his face half covered by cloth, his eyes fixed on the ground ahead. The lantern is meant to reassure, but it doesn't. Its flickering light only deepens the shadows around it. Walls seem to move in its wake. Every puddle reflects shapes that aren't there. Behind curtains, people peek, but no one opens their doors. He doesn't knock. He only stops sometimes, to whisper a prayer at a doorstep, or to leave a mark in chalk, a circle, a cross, a name. No one speaks of those marks in daylight. Tonight, the lantern passes your home. It hesitates. You hold your breath. You can feel the pulse in your fingertips. Then slowly it moves on. But the fear remains, because no one knows what the lantern bearer sees. No one knows who told him where to stop. Some say he follows the plague itself, watching it drift like smoke from house to house. Others say he decides that when food grows short and space grows tight, someone must choose who gets left behind. You lie awake long after the glow disappears down the street, long after his footsteps fade into nothing. You try to believe that it's just a man, that the lantern is just a light, but deep down, you wonder, was it even Thomas at all? You used to dream. Before the sickness, before the strange silences, your sleep was whole. Soft, unbroken, you'd wake to bird song, to light creeping through cracks in the thatch. Now sleep is a battlefield. It comes in fragments, short, nervous bursts, each one shattered by the smallest sound. The creak of timber, the cough of a sibling, the groan of someone turning over. Each moment of rest ends in a jolt, heart racing, lungs clenched. Your body aches from it, not just from lying on a hard straw, but from the tension, the fear that if you drift too deeply, you won't wake up again. Or worse, you will to find someone beside you no longer breathing. You hear things in the dark now. You're not even sure if they're real. A scraping sound beneath the floor, a whisper just above your head, the shuffle of bare feet outside the wall. But when you sit up, there is only stillness. No answers, only shadows that seem a little closer than they were before. Sometimes your dreams do come, but they bring no peace. You dream of eyes watching you from behind closed doors, of hands reaching out from the corner of your room, of voices calling your name softly, as if coaxing you toward something you don't want to see. And when you wake, covered in sweat, heart thudding, the darkness feels thicker, more solid, like it remembers your dream too. Your little brother murmurs in his sleep. Your mother shifts beside the dying fire. Everyone is alive. For now, you close your eyes again, but it's not sleep you fall into. It's something more fragile, something like sleep, but hollowed out. A shell that might hold you for a minute or a lifetime, and from which you may not return. Because in 1347, sleep isn't rest, it's surrender. The fog doesn't roll in like mist in spring. It arrives like a warning, thick, low, yellow-gray. It hugs the ground, swallowing fields, paths, and homes, until the world feels reduced to a few feet of vision. By daylight, it's unsettling. By night, it's something else entirely. The children whisper stories. They say something walks in the fog, not animal, not man. A figure too tall, too thin, wearing robes that shift like smoke. No one agrees what it looks like, only that it's seen when the fog comes after dark. Some call it a spirit, others a punishment. A few even give it names, borrowed from old forest tales or twisted from forgotten saints. You never believed them until the fog came for your village. That night you stepped outside to empty a basin. The world was gone, swallowed. The trees, the road, even the stars. Just silence, and that strange, unnatural light that fog brings, like the moon has turned to ash. Then you heard it. Not a footstep, not exactly, but movement, deliberate and slow, crunching earth beneath something heavy. You stood frozen, water dripping from your hands. Something past the edge of your sight. Too far to see, too close to ignore. You didn't wait to look again. You ran. Back inside, your family stared at you, pale, because they had heard it too. Later, your cousin confessed. A week ago, in another village, someone went out into the fog and never came back. They said his lantern was found upright in the road, still lit. The priest said not to believe in such tales, but he now keeps a bundle of dried lavender at the altar. And you draw the curtain tightly each night. You stuff cloth in the cracks under the door. You whisper an extra prayer if you smell the fog returning. Because stories don't survive for centuries unless something gave them life. And in 1347, even the air holds memory. There used to be light, not just the sun, but firelight, lamplight, laughter. The night market was once the soul of your village. Even after dusk, voices filled the square. Merchants shouted prices. Children begged for sweet cakes. Old men played dice by candlelight. But now the stalls are empty, and the silence has taken their place. The wooden tables still stand, tilted, rotting, half covered by tattered cloths. A broken scale swings in the wind. Crushed apples lie blackened where they fell weeks ago. Somewhere beneath a crate, a rat nests, unbothered by the absence of men. The torch posts have gone dark. No one dares to relight them. Light draws attention, they say, and attention brings misfortune. You remember the sound the market once had. 100 conversations at once, punctuated by the clang of pots and the ring of laughter. Now, every sound echoes. Every step feels too loud. You pass through it quickly, head down, breath held. But you're not the only one. There's someone ahead, not moving, just standing between two abandoned stalls. You slow, a figure cloaked in shadow, no light, no face, just stillness. You blink. They're gone. Was it someone? A memory? The plague plays tricks, or maybe it's the night itself that remembers. The market is gone, yes, but not forgotten. Somehow that makes it worse. Because the stalls remain like gravestones. Because you can still smell spices in the dirt. Because silence has replaced song. But the weight of the song still lingers in the air. You walk home faster now. And when you shut the door behind you, you don't tell anyone what you saw. Because if you say it out loud, it might follow you back. He hasn't moved in hours. At first, it was small things. He stopped eating, then he stopped speaking. His eyes stared at the ceiling like they were waiting for something to descend. Now, he just lies there. Your uncle, strong once, loud, always smelling of smoke and salt, reduced to a shape beneath a blanket, barely breathing. You can't tell if he's asleep or drifting somewhere deeper. No one approaches him. The room is small, just one space for all of you, but the corner he occupies feels farther, like a different place entirely. You eat on the other side, whisper on the other side, pretend the air doesn't smell strange when the breeze shifts. Your mother changes the cloths on his forehead with trembling hands. She holds her breath when she touches him. No one else volunteers. You've heard the stories, that the sickness waits inside the body, that once you touch it, it follows you, that it clings to skin, hair, breath. But what do you do when it's already inside your house? The children ask questions. Will he wake up? Can we talk to him? You shake your head. You don't know. No one knows. Not even the priest. He hasn't come in days. Sometimes your uncle groans, a sound like wood splitting, like something trying to climb back out of him. You try to sleep, but your mat is too close to that corner. Every cough turns your blood cold. Every silence is worse. Then, one night he sits up, eyes open, mouth open, no sound, just staring. No one breathes. Then he lies back down. You don't sleep that night, or the night after, and when the candle dies, you swear the darkness leans harder toward his side of the room. They used to come through the village every few days. Physicians, healers, herbalists. Some dressed in long robes, others in patched cloaks, carrying bundles of dried roots and jars of colored powders. A few even wore masks, grotesque bird-like beaks stuffed with herbs and sponges soaked in vinegar. People feared them, but they also waited for them, because when the coughs began or the skin grew hot, they were the only hope left. Now they're gone. No one knows where they went. Some say they fled, that they saw the numbers rising and chose survival over service. Others say they died in the homes they entered, that the herbs in their masks weren't enough, that even death could pass through cloth. You go to the cottage at the end of the lane, the one where the old apothecary used to live. The door hangs open. Inside, bottles are shattered, scrolls are burned, and the shelves are bare. No one took anything. It was left like that, as if he ran, fast and afraid, before the sickness could catch him. In his garden, the lavender is overgrown. The rosemary is wild. Nature, it seems, doesn't fear the plague. You ask your neighbors if anyone has seen another doctor. They shake their heads. Some mutter that it's better this way, that too many physicians brought more death than healing, that some of them carried the plague in with them, and still, someone is sick in every house. Your brother's cough is getting worse. Your mother mixes garlic with wine and forces him to drink. She whispers the recipe like a charm, as if saying it aloud might break its power. But you see the fear in her eyes. She doesn't know what she's doing. No one does. Because now, in the year 1347, even the ones who were supposed to save you have vanished, and you're left with prayer, vinegar, and the sound of shallow breathing in the dark. The village built walls to keep out wolves, bandits, raiders, thick stone, high gates, watchmen stationed day and night. You used to feel safe behind them, as if the very presence of stone could push the world back. Now the gates stay closed, not to protect, but to contain. No one leaves, no one enters, and still, people die. That's when you realize the walls weren't built for this, because this enemy doesn't climb over them. It doesn't break through. It doesn't even knock. It seeps. Through breath, through linen, through kindness, through the hand you held too long, or the basin you both touched, through the air shared in a quiet room. You hear the guards speaking above the gate. Their voices are softer than before. One of them hasn't shown up in 2 nights. The baker's wife tried to leave last week. Her son was sick, and she thought the next village might help. They turned her away at the far bridge. She came back alone. The boy didn't last the night. Now even the guards look thinner, paler. They keep their distance. From each other, from you. You walk along the inner wall, fingertips brushing the cold stone. Once, this meant shelter. Now it feels like a tomb. Inside the walls, the sickness spreads in silence. A creeping shadow that touches everything, even things untouched. The safest place in the village is no longer the church, or the granary, or the stronghold. There is no safe place. Because the thing killing your village doesn't care about barriers. It lives in the spaces between voices, in the breath between words, and when the wind changes, you swear you can feel it move. There is a light outside, but you don't trust it. Once, any glow in the dark was a comfort. A lantern swinging gently, a fire flickering in a hearth, the warm promise of life still moving after sunset. Now, light feels like a warning. The merchant up the road keeps his windows lit all night. He's wealthy, they say, paid for candles with silver, and hired a servant to walk the yard with a torch until dawn. The fire flickers behind the shutters, never going out. You think it might mean someone is still alive in there, or someone doesn't want to be left in the dark, or maybe it's meant to scare something off, but it doesn't work. No one walks near his house anymore. Some whisper that his wife died days ago, and he's keeping the lights on so he doesn't have to look at her. Others say he went mad, pacing the floor, speaking to someone who's no longer there. You saw it yourself once, a shape moving back and forth behind the curtains. A man, or what was left of one, glowing orange in candlelight, pacing like he was waiting for the end. The torch outside spits sparks into the wind. It crackles, but the sound is sharp, violent. It doesn't calm you. It makes your skin crawl. Because it doesn't light the way. It only lights the fear. You used to wish for more light in the night, but now you know. It's not the dark that's dangerous. It's what people do to escape it. There was a time when the bell rang loud and clear. It marked the hours. It called the faithful. It rang out weddings, births, and deaths. All the moments that tied life together in rhythm and ritual. But now, the bell tolls differently. No longer proud, no longer clean. It rings low, muffled, hesitant, as if it too is afraid to speak too loudly in this new world. You heard it last just before dawn. A single chime, then nothing. It didn't come from the steeple, not anymore. The churchyard is empty. The priest, if he still lives, does not climb the bell tower. The great rope hangs limp like a forgotten limb. No? The sound came from closer, somewhere near the well, a handbell perhaps, held by someone too weak to shout. It was the sound of surrender. You peeked through the shutters and saw a boy, maybe 10 years old, walking alone, carrying a bundle on his back that sagged like it held the world. He stopped in the middle of the street, knelt and placed the bundle down. Then he rang the bell. Once. Then he left. You didn't go outside. No one did. And the bundle stayed there until morning. Until the lantern man came. Gloves on, face covered, cart creaking behind him. The bell hasn't rung since. But you still hear it, not with your ears. Not always, but in your chest. A phantom echo, marking time not in hours, but in losses. And every time you hear it, you wonder, will the next chime be for someone I know? Will it be for me? It starts with one. A long, low howl rising just past the hour of midnight. Not a bark, not a growl, a cry, full of something you can't quite name. Grief, maybe, or warning. Then others join, from behind fences, from alleyways, from the woods beyond the wall. A chorus of dread, dozens of dogs, calling out into a night already full of things no one dares name. You used to think it was superstition, that dogs could sense death before it came, that their howling meant someone would pass before dawn. Now you believe it, because every time they cry, someone is gone by morning. The village has grown quiet in the day, but at night when the dogs sing, it's as if they are keeping record, not just of the dead, but of the dying, of souls shifting in their beds, of last breaths drawn in the dark. You try to drown them out. You pull the blanket over your ears. You hum to yourself. You press your hands hard against your head. But the sound cuts through. It lives in the bones of the house, in the hollows of the floor. Some say the dogs are possessed. Others say they are mourning what we no longer have the strength to mourn ourselves. You saw one the other morning, alone near the gate, ribs showing, eyes glassy. It didn't run, just stared, as if it knew you, as if it was waiting for you to understand something you weren't ready to hear. That night, the howling came again. Longer this time. More voices. And you whisper to yourself, please not our house. Please not tonight. But the dogs don't listen to prayers. They only speak truth. It happens quietly. You wake one morning and it's there, tied to the door across the lane, a scrap of fabric, dark as coal, fluttering gently in the breeze. Not a flag, not a message, a signal, a black cloth. You've seen them before, tied with trembling hands, hung without words. It means someone inside is gone, or close. It means don't knock, don't enter, don't speak their name. It's not an official law, not from the church or the Lord. But everyone follows it. The cloth is like a border between the living and the dead, between this world and whatever waits beyond the fever. Sometimes it stays for days. Sometimes it's replaced with a second cloth, then a third. You remember when the tailor's home hung 5 of them in a row. Then nothing. Just silence and an empty house. Your mother once told you the cloth was a mercy, that it warned others, protected them, but now it feels more like surrender, like a hand raised in defeat. That morning, you stare at the house across the way. You know the family inside, or at least you did. You haven't seen them in over a week. The door never opens. No one comes out. The cloth just waves, gently in the wind. A silent announcement that death has entered, and no one was strong enough to stop it. You wonder who tied it. Was it the last one left? Did they know what it meant, even as they struggled to lift their arm? Or did someone else do it for them? A neighbor passing by, who couldn't ignore the stillness any longer. You glance at your own door. There's no cloth. Not yet. But the bundle in the corner hasn't moved since last night, and your sister hasn't opened her eyes all morning. Your mother is already cutting a strip of fabric. Black. Just in case. You used to know the road well. A simple dirt path winding through the hills, past the edge of the forest, toward the next village, and then on to the world beyond. Merchants traveled it, pilgrims, messengers. Even your father once walked it, long ago, with a pack of salted meat and a hopeful work. It was a lifeline. Now it's gone. Not buried, not destroyed. Just unreachable. The town sealed the gates weeks ago. No one in, no one out. The guards say it's for your protection, to keep the sickness from spreading farther. But no one truly believes that anymore. The truth is simpler and heavier. The world doesn't want you. You've seen it yourself. A stranger arrived once, sick, stumbling, desperate, and begged for water at the gate. The guards pushed him back. He died just off the road, beneath a tree. They burned the body where it fell. Sometimes you dream of walking that road anyway, of slipping out by night, past the hedges, into the mist, of reaching a place untouched, a village that still laughs, a house where the beds are warm and the table is full. But you never go, because deep down, you know, there is no such place anymore. The sickness is not a storm you can outrun. The road may still be there, in soil and stone, but its purpose has vanished. It no longer leads to safety. It only leads to more silence. Your mother once said, "The road is how the world finds us." Now you keep the shutters closed tight, because if the world still knows where you are, it hasn't come to help. He used to knock gently on every door. He'd bring a flask of holy water, a prayer book bound in cracked leather, and the same words on his lips, "Peace be upon this house." Now he stands at the edge of the road, not even close. You see him from the window, wrapped in layers, face hidden behind cloth, hands gloved. He doesn't walk through the village anymore, doesn't bless the sick by their bedsides, doesn't touch their foreheads or speak their names. He only comes when summoned, and even then, he stays far back. He raises his hand toward the home, whispers something you can't hear, and then turns away. It's not his fault. He's afraid, like everyone else. You heard that he tried to bless a dying man last week. Went inside, removed his hood, and offered final rites. The man died by morning. The priest hasn't removed his gloves since. Now he carries a small bell, rings it once, stands still, then moves on. Some still believe his prayers help. Others say they're hollow now, words spoken at a distance, like throwing stones at a storm. Still, people watch for him, because when the priest arrives, it means someone has reached the end. And when he doesn't come, it means no one was left to ask. You watch him today from behind a shutter. He looks thinner, slower, older than you remember. The pages of his prayer book are curled with damp. His shoulders bend with the weight of names he will never say aloud. He raises his hand toward the house next door, whispers, pauses, then leaves. You wonder if he saw your curtain shift. If he knows your brother hasn't opened his eyes since morning. If he heard your mother crying through the wall. But the priest does not knock anymore, and in 1347, a blessing from the road is all you'll receive. If you're lucky. You hear them first, always at night, a skittering above your head, sharp and fast. Then the scratching starts. Nails on old wood. Tiny bodies darting through the beams just under the thatch. You used to chase them out. Back when the world made sense. Rats meant spoiled grain, chewed blankets, ruined shoes. A nuisance, yes, but nothing more. You'd clap your hands or throw a stick and they'd vanish into the walls. Now, they don't run, they linger. You see them in daylight, on the edge of the hearth, beside the sleeping mat. One scurried across your mother's skirt as she wept by the fire. She didn't move, didn't even flinch, because rats no longer just mean filth. They mean death. The villagers whisper that the sickness follows them, that the fleas in their fur carry the black mark, that where rats gather, death soon follows. You want not to believe it. But you've noticed the pattern, the boy with the swollen neck. His family said rats had gotten into their grain this week before. The weaver's wife, found dead in her bed, a rat still feeding from her hand. The mill house, abandoned now, filled with nesting straw and red eyes in the dark. No one hunts them anymore. They outnumber the living. You lie awake at night listening to them, their tiny claws ticking across the beams. You imagine them multiplying in the shadows, watching from the corners, waiting for the fire to go out. One falls from the rafters once, lands near your feet. You freeze. It looks up at you, not afraid, almost expectant, as if it knows you won't chase it, as if it's already won. You don't sleep the rest of the night, because in 1347, rats are no longer animals. They are messengers, and the message is always the same. You smelled it before you saw it. Smoke, thick and bitter, not from cooking, not from hearthwood. This was different, oily, black and clinging. It turned the air sour and heavy, sank into your clothes, into your hair, into your memory. Someone was burning something. You followed the smoke to the edge of the village, past the fence where old carts rot, past the bend in the path where wildflowers used to grow. That's where the fire was, a pit, a pile, a flame that burned too hot for simple wood. No one stood near it. No one fed it, and yet it burned. At first, you told yourself it was rubbish, old hay, broken tools, waste from the fields. But you knew better. The smell told you. So did the shape of what lay beneath the rising cinders. You'd heard of other towns doing this, when the bodies piled too high, When no one came to bury them anymore, the villagers made a choice. Fire instead of earth. Smoke instead of graves. This fire had been burning for days. You saw cloth in the flames. Then something that had once been a shoe, then a curl of blackened hair. You backed away, slowly, your hands shaking. But even when you turned and ran, the smoke followed. It crept into your mouth, coated your tongue, filled your nose. You couldn't eat that night, couldn't speak, because every time you opened your mouth, it was there, the taste of burning flesh, of the ones you knew, of the ones you would soon lose. The next day, you avoided that road, but the sky above it still hung dark, the wind still carried its truth. And when you lit your own hearth that evening, the fire inside seemed smaller than before, frail, guilty somehow. Because in 1347, even fire learns to carry sorrow, and some flames never go out. They don't understand it the way you do. Not fully. Not yet. The children still play, still laugh, sometimes, though it's quieter now, and only when the grown-ups aren't watching. You hear them in the alley, near the abandoned goat pen, whispering games into the dust. They draw circles in the dirt, take turns pretending to fall sick. One girl lays flat, tongue out, eyes closed, while the others chant around her. Then she jumps up, laughing. In the world they pretend, no one stays dead for long. They build houses from sticks and line them with pebbles, pretending their homes untouched by plague. They use scraps of cloth as capes, say they're doctors, heroes, saints. They wave wooden spoons and whisper spells. One boy says he can heal just by touching. His sister believes him. For now. Sometimes they play funeral. They wrap a doll in rags and place it gently in a box. They say prayers they don't understand, copying what they've heard from the road or the churchyard gate. Then they bury it under old straw and walk away, giggling. But the laughter doesn't last long, because somewhere beneath the play, they know. They know from the way their parents look at empty chairs, from the way people stop speaking when they enter a room, from the new silence in the streets they once played in freely. One day you see a girl sitting alone, rocking something in her arms. You think it's a doll, until you look closer. It's a bundle of old cloth, tied in the shape of a baby. She hums to it, then stops, then hums again. There's no music, just memory. The children still pretend, because pretending is the only thing they control. In their world, people come back. In their world, the sickness skips their house. In their world, they're the ones who fix everything. You watch them, aching, because you once believed in games too. And in 1347, pretend is the only magic left. The sun still rises, but it no longer brings morning. The light comes pale and slow, crawling over rooftops like it's afraid of what it might find. It filters through shutters, touches the cold stone floors, but it doesn't warm anything, doesn't change anything. You wake, but you are not rested. You eat, but not because you are hungry. You move through the hours as if underwater, waiting not for nightfall, but for a sign that time still means something. Because the truth is, the night never really leaves. It lingers in corners, in the breath of the sick, in the quiet between your mother's whispered prayers. Even the birds have stopped singing, even the wind seems hushed. You used to mark the day by chores, by bells, by laughter down the road. Now there is no rhythm, only the ache of hours passing without shape. One bleeds into the next until you no longer know if it's been a day, or 2, or 5. The candle you light at night still burns in the morning, not because you forgot, but because you never dared blow it out. Even the church does not ring the dawn bell anymore. The watchmen don't call the hour. The roosters do not crow. It's as if the world itself has lost track of where the sky ends and the void begins. You step outside one morning, hoping for sun. Instead, you find fog. The same choking gray that came in the night, the same silence, the same heaviness in your chest. You go back inside, because outside there is no day, and inside there is only waiting. And in 1347, night is no longer something that comes and goes. It's something that stays. There was always crying. At first it came in bursts, short, sharp sobs behind closed doors, then wailing, uncontained, rising like wind before a storm. A mother losing her child, a boy watching his father crumble, a family clutching each other beside a dying fire. Grief became the village's background music, but now, it's quiet. Too quiet. At first you think it's a gift, a moment of peace in the endless sorrow. But as the silence stretches, it starts to feel wrong, like a bell that should have rung, but never did. You walk through the square. No weeping from the tailor's home. No murmured prayers from the weaver's door. No arguments, no lullabies, not even coughs. Just the sound of your own breath. You peek into the house where 3 children once played in the yard. Their shoes still sit outside. One is tipped over, filled with dust. No voices, no laughter, no tears. The crying hasn't stopped because the pain is over. It stopped because the mourners are gone. There's no one left to cry. The ones who sobbed in the dark now sleep in the earth, or haven't stirred in days. The mothers clutch empty blankets. The fathers stare blankly at cold hearths. Some sit with tears that never fall, their grief hollowed out by exhaustion. And some, like you, feel a different kind of fear. Because even sorrow was a sign of life. Even screaming meant someone cared, someone felt, someone remained. But now the village has gone still. And in 1347, it's not the crying that haunts you. It's the moment when it finally stops. You were there when they buried him. It wasn't a real burial. Not like before, when the whole village gathered and the priest recited verses over the body. No, this was fast. Rushed, a hole dug shallow in the woods beyond the north field, a blanket for a shroud, no marker. Just earth and silence. You helped carry the body. You saw his face. You watched the dirt fall. But now, 3 nights later, someone knocks at your door. Not loudly, just enough. You freeze. No one knocks anymore. You open the shutter just slightly. A figure stands in the dark, a little too tall, a little too still. No torch, no lantern, just moonlight. Pale and cold, brushing across the cloth draped over their shoulders. They don't speak. You whisper a name. The figure turns its head. It looks like him, but not quite. The eyes don't blink. The mouth doesn't move. And something about the way it stands. Wrong, like a puppet held too loosely. You close the shutter. You don't scream. You wait. In the morning, there are no footprints outside, just flattened grass, damp from fog. You ask your brother if he heard anything. He says no, but he looks pale, and he hasn't gone near the window all day. Later that evening, you walk past the burial ground. The earth is disturbed, a soft, round mound of dirt, freshly turned. You tell yourself it was an animal, a fox, maybe wild pigs, but something deep in your chest knows otherwise. The dead don't return. Not truly. But sometimes, in 1347, The grief walks back home before the soul is ready. And if it knocks, you must never open the door. You didn't hear the screams. You were too far down the lane and the wind was thick that morning. But others did. Some say they lasted for hours, some say only minutes. What you did hear was the hammering, the sound of boards being nailed across windows, stones thudding into place, mortar slapped in by shaking hands. The village men, masked and silent, sealing the door shut. Not to protect the family inside, but to keep them in. There had been talk. The father had fallen sick. Then the mother. Then the baby. They said it was only a matter of time before all inside the house were coughing. So the council made a choice. They didn't ask permission. By the time you arrived, it was already done. The windows were dark. The door, gone, hidden behind a fresh wall of stone. No markings, no candle left burning, just silence. At first, people spoke of it in whispers. Was it mercy? Was it cruelty? Was it justice? But soon, the questions faded. Other deaths came. Other homes quieted. Now the house just stands there. A tomb with a roof. You pass it sometimes. You tell yourself it's empty, that whatever was inside is long gone, by illness or hunger or slow despair. But on certain nights when the wind shifts, you think you hear movement. A faint thud, a soft breath, a dragging sound across the floor. You tell yourself it's rats, but you walk faster. Because in 1347, the dead do not always wait to be buried, and some walls were not built to keep things out, but to hold something in. It's not supposed to be there. You've walked that path 100 times. Past the well, around the chapel ruins, behind the baker's empty shed. The stone wall runs straight, solid, cracked by age but unbroken, except now. There's a door. Small, wooden, painted black, though the color is peeling. Iron hinges rusted into silence. A latch, old and cold. No window, no markings. You ask around. No one remembers building it. No one remembers seeing it yesterday. And no one wants to touch it. The village carpenter swears he never laid a hand on it. The mason says that section of wall hadn't been disturbed in years. An old woman mutters that sometimes things appear when sorrow grows too heavy. The doors open when the world wants to hide something. You try to forget it, but each day you pass it, the door feels closer. At first, it was 10 steps off the path. Now it's 5, then 3. You dream of it. In the dream, the door is open, but there's no room beyond. Only dark. Not the black of night, but something deeper. A black that breathes. You wake with sweat on your chest and dirt under your nails. One morning, the latch is undone, just resting there, slightly ajar. A thin breeze seeps out, smelling not of air, but of age, of damp rot, of the breath between last rites and first burial. You do not open it. No one does. Because in 1347, some doors are not meant to be walked through, and some are not built by human hands. The village is quiet now, not the quiet of rest, not the stillness of peace. It's the hush of absence, the kind that settles over places where life has thinned too far to speak, where doors stay closed, not from caution, but from fear of what or who might not be behind them. You used to know every voice on your street, who baked bread at dawn, who laughed too loud in the evening, who sang while carrying water. Now, days pass without hearing a single name. You don't know who is still inside each home. You don't know who is still breathing. Sometimes smoke rises from a chimney you'd long assumed cold, a sign, faint and thin, that someone still stirs behind the stone. But no one calls out anymore. No one waves from windows. You forget what their faces looked like, and worse, you begin to forget who they were. You tried keeping count once, scratched names into wood, marked those who had fallen, those who were sick, those who might return. But soon the names outnumbered the space, and some were marked both sick and silent, with no one left to tell which had changed. Even your own household has become uncertain. Your uncle hasn't moved in days. Your sister hasn't spoken. Your mother is too tired to count the bread loaves anymore. You look at their faces in the half-light and wonder, are they still here? Are you? One evening, you light a candle and place it in the window. Not to guide anyone home, but so that someone might know. Here, there is still breath. But you don't know if anyone sees it, because in 1347, the line between the living and the dead has blurred. And the worst part of plague is not always death. Sometimes it's not knowing who survived.